Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's Clear Path Leadercast. My name is Craig Anderson. I am the president of Clear Path Coaching and Consulting. I have spent 25 years in corporate America, pivoted out, grew a small business, and then pivoted again and launched my own consulting and coaching practice, largely coaching. Who I work with? Accidental leaders, people like myself, people who grew into leadership roles who never thought they would. Personally, I somehow graduated from college with an English degree and it ended up in national leadership roles for Fortune 500 financial services companies. It's a long story. Happy to share it with you separate from these sessions today. But a lot of times when you come up through those accidental leadership roles, be it in corporate America or being that you are an entrepreneur who had a great idea, who grew a successful business and suddenly found themselves, instead of being a doer, having to get things done through other people and trying to figure out, how do I actually achieve that? How do I accomplish things through other people? So accidental leaders come in all shapes and sizes, but a lot of times we find ourselves second guessing ourselves and struggling with indecision, struggling with how to make the right decision and how to get clarity. So that's who I like to work with, is those self-aware accidental leaders who know there's a better way to lead, and I help them find that way. If you would like to talk more about that, down at the bottom of the screen, you can see the link for clearpathcoaches.com/intro call. I would love to talk to you more about where your challenges are and see how we may be able to work together to help you grow into the leader that you aspire to be. Today, though, we are going to focus on a very specific area that has really come up a lot to kind of in a lot of my coaching sessions lately. Is I really see a lot of people struggling with, they think they understand the problem or the challenge, but they're not seeing the problem behind the problem. And that is of great interest to me because I think there's a huge opportunity when you can start to see that problem behind the problem to really find ways to transition and supercharge your growth. And that's a lot of what I do in the practice. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you have questions or comments, drop them in the feed. I will see those comments here. Give me a thumbs up if you're here. I would be happy to answer any questions you have as we go through. Pardon me for having to look down to check from time to time. If you're watching this on replay, I will be happy to jump into the comments as well. Just drop me a hashtag replay with your comment, and I will jump in and be happy to answer any questions you have there. So let's talk about this. I want to give you a couple of examples. One, I was recently working with a client who said, Craig, I have got a time management issue. That is really my issue. And what they wanted was lots of tips and tricks on time management, ways I can grow, ways I can change, systems I can put in place, time blocking, whatever that Pomodoro method, the one with the tomato. And I know all those and I can give you all those. But what we started talking about first was, let's talk about what is causing those time management issues. And we really started digging into what was kind of sitting behind those. And when you start digging into what you think is a time management issue in this case, you begin to kind of get into examples and challenges. And as we started diving into this, what we found out was that what was really starting to blow this person up every day and every week and getting away from the things that they felt were very important to their role was a lot of special projects that were coming down. A lot of times, those of us in significant leadership roles, we all have a boss or we all have subordinates who we want to be responsive to. And requests were coming into this person for different reports and analyses and data and projects that were to be done. And they were getting them from their boss in many cases. And they just dropped everything, focused on getting that project done, and not only getting that project done as a first priority, because after all, it came from our boss, so it must be the most important thing on our plate. Or is it? Is not always the case that is true. The second part was, this person had a very high standard for themselves. They didn't do, if I'm doing something, they said, I do it all in. I am all in on it. And so they were creating both priorities and a tremendous amount of workload every time one of these assignments came down their way. So we started digging into what was going on with that, what was coming in from the boss. And what we started to uncover was two really big problems with the way they were approaching these special projects, because some of these are taking like 2 to 3 days of their time, and all the other things that were in their goals weren't getting done as a result. And what we really started digging into was two critical questions that they needed to start asking when these assignments came their way. Question one: when do you need this back? A lot of times with bosses, I was this boss sometimes. Something comes up in a meeting and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm intrigued. I'm an innovator under the core values index. I want lots of information so I can consider lots of options. So I'd say, hey, I would love to know more about that. Can you get something to me on that? And I was sometimes vague. I didn't say when I wanted it back. And that was the challenge. They weren't clarifying, when do you want this back? How much time do I have to put this together? Two, they did not ask another and crucial follow-up question to that assignment, which was, can you help me understand the level of detail you're looking for in this report? Are you looking for a 50,000 foot view of this issue, a 25,000 foot view of this issue, or a ground level view of this issue? And the challenge that my coachee was having was they were assuming every request needed to be returned immediately and needed to be done at that ground level view of the problem. So they're churning out over a couple of days multiple pages of data for something that maybe that's what the boss was looking for, but it could also have been they were just looking for an overview. And so once we started working on that clarity, the follow up and the challenge for that client was start asking those two questions every time someone brings you an assignment. Get a timeline, get a level of depth of what the person is looking for so that you can gauge your response. And, hey, if you want to be that person who always does a little bit more, that's great. Maybe the person is asking you for something at a 25,000 foot level and you want to give them 15. Great, excellent. But don't create a workload for yourself that you're going to go from a 25,000 foot view request to a ground level view deep dive into the data. That's not really what's going to help you. And quite frankly, a lot of times your managers or your supervisors or your president and your CEO, they're looking for enough to make a decision to move forward and say, okay, now let's invest in that deeper dive. But if you're going into that way overboard up front, they may appreciate it, but you've done more than what you need to do. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. Overreaching is sometimes not the best thing to do when we all have lots of things that we want to get done. And things will suffer when we start putting all those projects in front of all of the other goals that we have for the business. So, lesson learned here is always ask for deadlines and timelines and always ask for what the output they're expecting. So you are clear on what it is that you're putting together. And a little pro tip, if you're the leader, when you are handing out those assignments, make sure that you are providing that, because sometimes our subordinates don't always want to ask us those questions. So two big things. Here's what I want. Here's when I want it. Those are big things where you can be a better leader and treat your subordinates better and your team better so they're not constantly overwhelmed by what's going on. So that is thing one. The other thing I've seen quite a lot going on, and I don't know if this is because of all the things we've had coming out of COVID or just a lot of places are shorthanded and people are overwhelmed, but I see a lot of clients that I'm talking to who are just feeling completely overwhelmed. And we'll sit down for a session and I'll open up, tell me what's going on, what's on your mind. And I'll get 20 to 25 minutes of just full on outpouring of everything that's going on because they're feeling overwhelmed. Everything is hitting them so fast that they can't get clear on it. It's just there's 1,000 moving pieces. Everything feels overwhelming. And they just kind of get into this just kind of dumping ground of all these things that are going on. And, I've been through coaching training. I've been a supervisor for a long time. I was a salesperson. We're designed to analyze and listen and elicit data. And so one of the things that I find a lot is going on is people are feeling so overwhelmed and they can't get clarity on what to do next. So really two big things that are coming out of that for me when I'm going through coaching sessions and helping these folks. One, after they kind of go through that 15 to 20 minutes of sometimes 30 of just outpouring of everything that's going on, I listen, I take notes, I kind of look for patterns in all this. Most of the time, I can take that 20 to 30-minute outpouring and consolidate that into the 2 to 3 real core issues that they're facing. And that helps get them clarity on, okay, this is what I need to address. When you're feeling overwhelmed and that emotion is overwhelming you, it's 3 in the morning, or it's just that first thing in the morning, you're looking at 1,000 emails and all these things to do, and you just can't get clarity on it. That's where you really need to sit down, slow down, and call that out. And that's where I add value as a coach, or perhaps your own coaches that you might have out there. That's where we can really add value because we don't have that emotional sense of the overwhelm, but we can hear it, we can see it, we can feel it as you're describing it. But we can kind of get outside of it and really kind of pull out those main themes, those main concerns, those main things that you want to work on, and get that down to 2 or 3 crucial, critical areas that need to be addressed. then we can help you take that down to the next level, because sometimes we can't. I think it was Tom Brady, but it was probably a whole bunch of other quarterbacks who said this is, the job is, great. If you can throw a touchdown for 90 yards, awesome, fantastic, get the score. But really the job is to get first downs 10 yards at a time, or 3 yards at a time, for 3 or 4 yards, just to move the ball forward. So what we want to do when you are in overwhelm, and that's what I want to help you with as a coach, helping all my accidental leaders out there, is helping you get to clarity on what the core issues are, and then start building that plan to say, here are the things I can do to start getting to that first down. Just give me the next step forward, or the next 2 steps forward. Let's work to identify, what do you need to do to move this one step forward towards completion. And we can get out of that emotional overwhelm feeling into clarity and execution. And that's such a core role that I think is helpful for people, because sometimes we're just so in our own stuff that we can't see the problem behind the problem. Be that asking for clarity on assignments and timelines, or be that just trying to get out of our own head muddle towards what it is that we want to do, or what it is we need to do to move that ball forward. So those are really, usually I give you 3, but today you get 2. So 2 things that will really help you moving forward. Now, if you need help with that, if you're like, Craig, that sounds great, but man, I can't even see how to get there. I can't figure out how to get to that first down. Heck, I'd be happy just to move the ball 3 or 4 yards. Today, we're all about the football analogies. So give me a call, set up a time. Let's connect. clearpathcoaches.com/intro call. Let's get a hold of things so we can really get to the core of what's going on for you, so that you can get out of the mess, out of the urgency, and into focusing on how you can start moving forward, so you can move from where you are to becoming the leader that you aspire to be. You see that place where you're feeling in control. You see that place where you're feeling in charge, but the path to get there is not clear. That's what we're going to do here with you at Clear Path Coaching and Consulting. So I hope to hear from you all. Let's jump on that call, clearpathcoaches.com/intro call. Again, if you see this later, hit replay, drop any questions in that you might have. Otherwise, thanks, guys. Appreciate everyone willing to join in today. Take care. Bye-bye.